Welcome to Idea to Investment, the podcast where we dig into the exciting world of entrepreneurship and investment. We tell the stories of the tech creators doing innovative work and the investors who back them up. Along the way, unveiling the fascinating journey from the birth of an idea to scoring crucial investment. We'll highlight the voices of entrepreneurs, showcasing their grit and creativity, all while gaining insight from the investors who believed in those dreams. Get ready to be inspired, stay informed, and stay tuned as we explore the awesome collision of ideas and investments. Idea to Investment is sponsored by TD Ferreira Wealth Advisory Group.
Michael O'Brien. I am the founder of the Blueprint Toolset. I've been in the space of organizational development, specifically culture and leadership, for 40 years now, and just excited to be here. Thanks.
I'm E-Ayoubi. I'm the president and CEO of the Blueprint Toolset, really excited the work we do and igniting the joy of work for other folks.
I'm Vivian Mora. I'm Chief People Officer actually for a private company here in the US, and I'm an investor in the Blueprint Toolset.
Beautiful. All right. Well, welcome to you all. Appreciate you all giving me your time. And we always like to start off with the pitch. So we're going to give this job to Ali. Ali, imagine that we are investors, potentially. Give us your 30 to 60 second pitch for the Blueprint.
All right. So we ignite the joy of work, and we do that through the development of thriving teams and cultures. And we empower individuals to achieve heightened performance and continuous growth and success. And we do that through the gift of data. So allowing people to see the dignity, abundance, curiosity, community, and integrity that can come from understanding not only their own mindsets, but also the mindset of the organization.
Okay. So Vivian, let's just get your reaction to maybe not even that pitch, but the first pitch you heard and the first mention you heard of the Blueprint Toolset. What was your reaction?
Oh, you're taking me all the way back. So to understand, there's a little bit of history. Michael and I've worked together on different projects for over 20 years. And so I was there when he was developing the Blueprint Toolset, and he had me do some of the just kind of review, feedback, things like that. I was excited from that moment about what he was doing and where this was going. So I don't think it took a pitch to get me involved.
So were you just kind of following along the whole journey right from the very beginning, knowing in the back of your mind at some point that if I had the opportunity that I would be investing in this?
Had no idea that would come along, actually. But was thrilled, like excited, and probably overly excited if Mike will tell you the story behind that.
Well, let's do that, because Michael, Vivian alluded to the fact that we are going way back. Take us back to the origin story of the Blueprint Toolset.
Sure. And it even predates my 20 years with Vivian. I started in this space with a different tool set, and it was measured culture, measured leadership, and my whole focus of why I kind of got into this space. And I was very fortunate to go to Wilfrid Laurier and have a mentor professor in organizational behavior who had taught me this other tool set, and really loved at what would be now considered behavioral economics. Back in the early 80s, I don't think that was, at least it wasn't a thing at Laurier, but that's effectively what I was doing. And look at all the time we spent at work, and we started seeing the importance of how culture really drives performance, and how leaders are the ones that drive culture. So constantly looking at that relationship on terms of how do we coach and develop leaders. And the original tool had scale called perfectionism. And over my career, that scale has changed dramatically in the sense of how it manifests in leadership. 40 years ago, when someone sort of self-assessed as a perfectionist, they were a really bad leader. And over the years, what happened is they ended up becoming a really good leader, but just really destructive to themselves. And part of being a perfectionist is having a facade. And 40 years ago, good leadership was believed to be yelling, throwing chairs, and things like that, kind of like a Bobby Knight basketball coach. And all of a sudden Phil Jackson comes into the space, and all of a sudden the type of leadership that we always knew was effective was actually seen as a role model of what good leadership was. And being a perfectionist, you really want to appear perfect. So the movement was moving in that direction. And I've coached over 4,000 executives from around the world, and watching this change, watching how perfectionists were starting to really be effective leaders, helped me to understand the tool set I was using was just dated and needed to be updated. And there was an aspect of perfectionism that Vivian will attest to, called attention to detail, which wasn't really a problem, because the original scale before it was called perfectionism was called competence, but that attention to detail was kind of kept in it, even though the negative characteristic was established. And so we kind of pulled that out, and that was the real driver to create the Blueprint Toolset, was to take something that was a real effective set of measures that was positive psychology 1970 to really bringing it up to date. And it was the impetus was really how perfectionism was manifesting in the workplace.
Okay, but before we move on to Ali, and we will, I want to get a little bit deeper into the measurement and
Okay.
how you scale this, because are you using an entirely new scale, or are you drawing from previous scales and making a new one and kind of evolving it as you go? How does that work?
Yeah. So what I did was really look at it from what were the strengths of the instrument that I was using, and what were the opportunities that I was seeing in the market. And then I started with a blank page and started completely from scratch. And so when you think of culture and leadership, most tools that are on the marketplace really measure the extent to which you're doing something well. And the idea is, if you're not scoring high in it, you're not doing that. But when it comes to mindset and culture, if you're not demonstrating gratitude, what's replaced that? Is it a competitiveness? Is it power? So you need to measure both limiting beliefs, things that are holding us back individually and organizationally, as well as liberating beliefs. And through the work that I was doing, what I started with was, what are the most common limiting beliefs that are holding individuals and organizations back? And then what is the replacement picture, which is like, what is it that we really want to have instead? And I was pulling those through. And as Vivian mentioned, like we met early 2000s, but 2008, I started really constructing these data sets of looking at the different things. And the original first model, which was revised several times, was more around 2011, 2012. But getting into how do we arrange these into a way that makes an effective model of understanding human behavior and organizational culture into that perspective.
All right, so Ali, Michael and Vivian's history goes back a couple of decades. What's your history with the Blueprint tool set? How far does your origin go?
We're chuckling. There's a couple different ways we can go with that one, but ultimately in my consulting career, I was a nurse at the bedside, left because of burnout, left healthcare, decided to do a career pivot, did my MBA, thought I was going to go into some form of healthcare leadership. While I was there, learned about change management consulting, got the opportunity to do an internship at a change management consultancy out of Seattle, which used the Blueprint to support their consulting work. So that was kind of my introduction to the tool, was more from the consulting perspective, and coaching around it. And I think the one thing that was hard for me, and even I recognized as a frontline nurse, you'd have these, fancy consultants come in and say that, you're going to feel something different. Well, if you're a numbers driven person, like, I want to see the data. Like, you're telling me it feels different, but what does that number shift actually look like? So it was really empowering as a baby consultant to have data backing up the work we're doing as we would remeasure these organizations as they're growing and say, look, your index score has grown this much just by focusing on, the area of regard or teamwork. What are we going to see differently? And then they would kind of correlate that to other metrics that they would be measuring, whether it was financial outcomes or for schools, like graduation rates, test scores, et cetera. Like, that's the interesting thing about the product, is it's not industry specific. It applies to everything. So that was my exposure to it, was as a front end consultant, and then had the opportunity to kind of go with the company when it went off on its own.
It's fascinating that you came from a healthcare background and to where you are. It's very different things, but you even alluded to, there is a bit of crossover. There are some things that you picked up from your time in healthcare that you can apply today. Are there other things, and some things maybe that surprised you or applicable?
Yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot of things. The number one thing I think I learned from healthcare was the value of customer service at every level. And just really making sure that, I have the title of CEO, but ultimately, like, my primary focus and goal is to make sure that our customers, who are consultants or HR folks within organizations, are supported and empowered. So really, that kind of customer service approach from being in a frontline healthcare position, which is obviously a service role, really translated. And also just understanding complex systems don't shift overnight. They take a lot of time and intention.
Ken, I think we're kind of glossing over a bit of the story that I think to your listeners might be really worthwhile because of investment. My first way at trying to get capital into the tool ended up being a big mistake.
I love hearing about mistakes, because I don't think there's a startup that has not made a mistake that they would love to share so that someone else doesn't do it.
So like Ali referred to the company in Seattle, and what happened is they were a client of mine, and I was doing a lot of measurement for them with the previous tool, and was utilizing their clients and my clients in terms of testing and paralleling the blueprint in the process. When it became ready to go, they were very anxious to actually buy my company and bring it inside theirs. And that was like, that's great. I want to be part of something bigger. I want to, to be able to put some capital into it and to kind of invest in that. So that Ali came into that space. The whole idea was to invest in the technology, and that never happened. And there was a crisis moment, and we were able to take all my IP out of that company and basically be on our own. And that's when Vivian got the call. Hey, do you want to jump in? That's why she didn't think it was ever going to be a thing. And she was the only investor that wasn't already kind of utilizing the product in different spaces, and truly our only quote unquote speculative investor in that perspective. And I really appreciated her involvement in that process. But what Ali's been able to do from those investments is really shift us from just an HR tool to really a software foundation and platform. And so that's been fantastic.
All right, Vivian, let's talk about that relationship. And when Michael came to you, having made this, for lack of a better word, blunder, did you feel like you were what space were you in? Did you feel like you were a kind of a savior, or how are you feeling at that point?
No, I wouldn't say that. I believe, first, there were two basic reasons I when Mike came to me that I was excited and thrilled about this. One, having known Mike for 20 plus years, I believed in Mike and what he could do with this product. I believed in the product because I know in this space, you do a lot of work. I've done a lot of work with different tools. I've worked with the earlier tool that Mike had. I knew the value of it. I knew what it could do for organizations, so I believed in it. I've invested in other products, other things. I'm going to say I've invested in speculative products at times. But I've always invested only in things I fully understood and knew had value and could make a difference in people's lives, which for me, that was primary, is that it's going to make a difference in people's lives. And so everything that Mike was looking to do was synonymous with my values. And I believed in the product, and I believed in the people behind the product.
How
I believed in their
speculative?
resilience. Go ahead.
Sure, I was just going to ask how speculative you felt this was going into it. Like, yes, you have that relationship. Yes, you have that confidence in Mike as a human being. But I mean, how risky did this feel at the beginning?
Initially, I'm gonna have to say it felt very risky
Mm-hmm.
because although I know the difference this product can make, there are other products in the market. And so there's always a chance that this product would be overshadowed by something else, or someone might not see the unique value that this offers beyond, what's kind of tried and true. And so, yes, there was a real chance that every dime I was putting into it would not come back to me. But I also, when you believe in a product and you also believe in the people behind it, you have faith that it's going to work. And I had faith that it was going to work. And so I really, even though I knew the and if let's do right brain, left brain stuff, okay? My if I'm looking at my left brain, which is my logical, all of that, I knew there was high risk and I could lose every bit of this. But my right brain was overshadowing that and saying, this is great. This is fantastic. I know the value of it. Others are going to know the value of it. They will see it, they will believe in it, and it will take off. I was an early investor in Netflix, like
Wow.
really early. And I don't have Netflix now, so don't look at me. I'm not a millionaire.
Dang.
But they did well enough during the early years that I was very happy with them. And so when you see something and you know that it's the future of what we need, we had a need in this space, and I operate within the human resources space every single day. There's a need that for flexibility, for agility that these products offer that others don't. And so I just had a strong belief that this is going to work, and I was willing to put money behind that.
Okay, so Mike, let's dig into that. And Vivian mentioned the market. Is the market a busy place? And what is the gap that the Blueprint tool set fills that perhaps those other tools cannot?
Yeah. And it's a busy place because it's not like 55-inch HD TVs where you just can really kind of like, okay, there, you can check the resolution and okay, that's the size I want, and this is the price, and is that a brand I'm happy. I mean, there's really you in this space, you're competing for revenue based on a solution that you have. And so there's things that seem similar, but they're really not similar. And we have to be careful to basically say, oh, ours is amazing, it does all the stuff. It's the challenge is helping the potential client to see the value it has. And one of our biggest strengths is how our tool integrates with so many other things they're already doing. And so we don't say, throw out what you're doing here, this is how this can help bring this together. The other thing is there's a huge space in the engagement measurement space. And engagement's, best place to work. A lot of newspapers in various areas sort of sponsor that type of, do you have a best place to work in the community and things like that. And they really focus on how people feel about the organization. But there's no real measure about how effective the organization is in terms of profitability. And so where we really kind of tie engagement and profitability and productivity together. So it is a more complete measure, but that's really kind of our uniqueness in that space. So engagement's an outcome of culture, but we actually measure it directly as well, so that the clients feel, that they're getting what they are used to, but they're getting more. And it's balancing the value to the CEO as well as the HR folks.
So, Ali, let's talk about, Mike mentioned getting what you're used to, but more. When you see clients, new clients that come to you, are they reacting to something, perhaps they feel like they're not getting solid data, or do you get the feeling that they are trying to be proactive?
I think it depends on the client kind of needs, right? So the organizations that tend to kind of be already on that good journey, they're proactively looking for, what can we do to keep this momentum? What can we do to kind of take it to the next level? Like, we're already good, but what's it going to look like to get to great? So those folks tend to have experimented with a lot. They've tried a lot of different products, et cetera. So those are the ones Mike is saying like, oh, we already use XYZ internally. Will this complement it, or is it going to conflict with it? And I think a lot of times, even like my own family, they'll say, okay, like, how are you different from like Myers-Briggs or something like that? And those are typology assessments. So those things typically don't change over time. If you did Myers-Briggs when you were 19 and then did it again when you're 40, your results likely aren't going to change. Where our tool is different is it's measuring your mindset, which is something that does continue to change and grow over time. And we refer to that collective mindset organizationally as corporate culture. And so those are the things that we're able to measure that growth over time. And a lot of tools don't do that in the same intentional way with those cultural drivers. So the things that you as an organization put into the culture, as well as what are the outcomes you're looking for. So in each sector, that's going to be different. So the customization, Mike and Vivian have both kind of referenced, is we have our core model, but then we can also customize based on your industry or other metrics that you're looking for internally and put that into your own dashboard, so you're tracking that.
That must put you in a pretty unique spot, Mike, in that you have this tool that can be applied in so many different ways to so many different individuals, organizations, leaders. Do you feel like that provides you with more scalability then?
Well, it does provide more opportunities. The scalability really comes from the platform that Ali's been sort of building and shepherding as the CEO, in terms of building the infrastructure that allows all that to happen. So there a lot of investment has been in the programming and building a platform to make it easy to add new questions to complement the overall model. I do want to take one little pause just for the audience, because we get into this sort of space of mindset and culture, and just a simple definition of mindset, because it's a word that's being used a lot, but it just so you can understand how it really impacts. An individual's mindset is how they explain what just happened and what they predict is going to happen next. So if somebody cuts you off in traffic, the way you react to that is your mindset. The way you decide to respond, the way you decide to infer some underlying intention, which you don't really know, but you're putting an intention behind the other person. All that is your mindset. And so that's a more dramatic example. But every time we're in a situation, we're constantly sort of thinking about what's happening next. And so are we willing to put in an extra effort to really work harder because it's worth it? Or is it, wow, there's no point doing it because it's not going to be successful.
Mhm.
That type of discretionary energy is an important part that comes out of it. And that's what you're really trying to tap into in organizations, is to create healthy mindsets, cultures that really reinforce it, so that people are putting in their discretionary energy. They really believe that success is possible, and their healthy relationships with others. So I just wanted to kind of lay that foundation, because I just felt we might have been getting caught up in our own buzzwords.
No,
But
no,
we'll come back to Allie on the scalability in terms of the platform, because she's
I
done an
will.
amazing job.
But I do want to, Ali, continue a little bit with what Mike's talking about, because I mean, you're talking about measuring some sometimes intangible things, some very intangible things. So I guess, how do you present solid numbers to a client, and proof that the Blueprint toolset is in fact providing what they need?
Yeah, and part of that is to provide normative data. So we when Vivian talked about being involved in some of the earlier products, we have to collect data and data and data, so we know what is the average response. So we have a 90 core items that are beliefs. 45 of those beliefs are limiting beliefs, and 45 are liberating beliefs. So the liberating beliefs is creating that discretionary energy. Limiting beliefs kind of hold us back. A lot of our limiting beliefs that we currently hold, we think are helpful. And so they become ongoing habits, because for one reason or another, we think it's helping us, but it's actually holding us back or holding the organization back. So that's always a fun conversation. And that part of the whole process is really getting into the understanding of what the results are. But we take those 90 items and we present them across 15 styles that have five factors. So we're looking at efficacy, goals, approach, relationships, and the altruism, and really sort of looking at how those get organized. And we take all that data and provide norms, so we know if somebody's at the 50th percentile or the 75th percentile or the 90th percentile. So we get a sense on how healthy the culture is, or how healthy the individual's mindset is.
All right, Ali, let's talk about that scale up, and we'll kind of transition into a bigger question for all three of you, which is what do you see for the future of Blueprint Toolset? Ali?
So the future is very exciting. So we're kind of, in December, we made the strategic decision to switch from being an assessment company that also did consulting to now we are a technology SaaS provider. So we license organizations to use our products on an ongoing basis to measure growth, because the analogy I always use is our tools are fabulous and they're great, but it's like stepping on a scale. I need a better analogy other than a weight loss one, but it's like stepping on a scale day one of your diet and then never going on the scale again. You don't really know how far you've come. Things might feel different, but it's really hard to quantify it. Or similarly, if you start some sort of weight loss journey and you don't weigh yourself until you're a couple months in, you don't know how far you've come. So being able to have clients more readily constantly remeasure that growth and see where their attention should be focused is really exciting. So those areas that Mike was mentioning, we can know what behaviors we're typically going to see based on percentile scores. So certain scores, you're going to see that whole not my jobbing. So when we see certain results, it's like, oh yeah, there's a total culture of, oh, that's not my job. I'm not even going to go there. Not going to put in any extra energy. Or other places where you'll commonly expect that people there go above and beyond because they want to. So that's what I'm excited for, is just really kind of connecting that for other organizations.
Vivian, I'll ask you, what excites you about the future of Blueprint Toolset, and maybe what concerns you? What fears do you have for the future?
Yeah, in terms of what excites me, I know that there's another tool out there like this. You can get engagement scores. You can do spot surveys throughout the year, but you can't get that along with culture and really be able to determine whether or not you're truly making a difference throughout the life cycle. I'm going to say companies are tending to measure annually, biannually, or but this gives you, I think it's a tool that doesn't exist right now. So I'm really excited about that. I'm living in this space and I'm excited about it. And so I know that others will be. I'm still following that Warren Buffett theory. It's that if I'm excited about it, others will be excited about it too. And so that what fears I have, is that people won't understand it, won't grasp it. We might not reach them. Um, but I know that Allie and Mike have a plan for that. So I'm still overwhelmingly excited about it.
All right, Michael, I will ask you the same question. And hey, if you have a plan, you're more than welcome to share it with us or not. But I also want you to start thinking about. I usually like to ask one kind of goofy question at the end, which is, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice right at the very beginning when you were just developing this, what would that piece of advice be? So think about that, but let's talk about the future first. And, how do you feel about the future of Blueprint Toolset?
The core of what I really love doing is one-on-one coaching. And so, as Ali said, we're really moving into this technology company. So I still do, outside of the Blueprint, I still do coaching, and I do coaching and support of Blueprint clients as well. And so we've talked a lot about the culture piece, but the leadership piece, because I've been doing a lot of coaching this week, is so impactful, because most tools, you talk about the typology tools that Ali talked about, it's about understanding, which is great, but we're focusing on what is that one thing that the leader can do to actually become a better leader. And two, when they get feedback from their direct reports, it's very different, because we're looking at the impact the leader is actually having on their direct reports' beliefs. So are you creating confidence in your direct reports? Are you creating that energy that you want to have? So it's all about energy. So I think that's the part that really excites me, is the more that kind of expands. And like just doing so many coaching this week, the leaders just love that component. And my concern to that about the future and the challenge is the word culture and climate get used interchangeably. And so some of these best place to work have a culture category, but climate is how you feel about the organization. Culture is what are you expected to do on a day-to-day basis. And so it's a real key thing to keep that difference in play. And it's not just, do we have a pinball machine or a pool table or a ping pong? That's those are artifacts of culture. That's not an expectation of behavior.
All right, so let's pull that lever back into the past, and back to 2012, back to 2008. What would you tell a slightly younger Mike O'Brien?
That's a tough one, because one of the things I love about gratitude is being grateful for mistakes, being grateful for everything that happened brings me to this point. So the idea of regret or what I do different is very tough to deal with, because I really kind of just deal with how blessed I feel to be where I am now, and how that journey. But just in terms of that idea of what I know today, and how could that have sped things up, type of perspective, I think that the shift that Ali convinced me into, in terms of really moving towards the platform, I think we could have done that even sooner. I think that was just genius, and I'm really thrilled about that, and what it might even created a different way of developing the product from the very beginning.
Well, it's a classic Back to the Future conundrum. You don't want to mess up the past so that it changes the future from a Michael J to a Michael J. I love it. Beautiful.
I appreciate you.
That's very funny. You picked up on the Michael J. Fox. That's exactly why I write my name, Michael J. O'Brien.
That's beautiful. Well, Michael J. O'Brien, appreciate your time. Ali, Vivian, to you two both, certainly appreciate you giving me your time and sharing this fascinating topic with me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. It's been fun.
My sincere thanks to Michael J. O'Brien, founder of the Blueprint Toolset, and CEO E-Ayoubi, as well as Vivian Mora, Chief People Officer and investor in the Blueprint Toolset. Idea to Investment is sponsored by TD Ferreira Wealth Advisory Group and is made possible by Tech Alliance of Southwestern Ontario. If you'd like to learn more about Tech Alliance and the resources available to entrepreneurs and startups, go to techalliance.ca. My name is Ken Eastwood. Thank you so much for joining me.